family, what's good with you? It's your boy 2A in LA, and as always, fam, anything I say in this episode, prior episodes, and future episodes is just my personal opinion. Don't take it as fact. Don't take it as law. Always do your own homework and come up with your own conclusions. Right about now, fam, I should go ahead and tap that like button for your boy. If you're new to the channel, I want to say welcome. Come on in. You can join the congregation by smashing that subscribe button and requesting all post notifications. And if you are an existing supporter of this channel, fam, I appreciate you more than you can possibly imagine. You are the reason this channel is anything. All right, fam, if you are not a member of the 2A in LA fam club, what are you doing? Look, fam, look just down below. You should see a join button. Hit that join button. For a modest $2.99 a month, you become a channel member. You get access to unreleased footage that nobody else gets to see. You automatically become eligible for our weekly and monthly giveaways, and we give away some incredible things, including optics and weapons lights and range bags, and yes, firearms. So don't miss the opportunity to maybe pick up, you know, one of the prize guns in my vast collection. All right, fam. Also, check out that QR code. Hit it. You see it's right there. Hit that QR code and that will take you to the 2A in LA website, where you can have access to our 2A in LA official merch store. We got all your merch needs taken care of. Also, I'll have all like my affiliate links and promo codes and discount codes there, as well as hot deals of the week. Hit that QR code or hit the link down in the description. All right, fam, now let's get back to the video. All right, fam, let's get this episode rolling. So look, I think we got a good one today. We have a brand that I don't think you've seen featured on the channel before, other than maybe when we did our tier rankings. We talked about them a little bit. This is the first gun that I've got into the channel to review from Akai. So shout out to my guys at 2A Zone who sent this firearm over to the channel to review. They didn't give it to me. I'm returning this. This is strictly a loaner for review purposes. So shout out to our guys at 2A Zone. All right, look. Let's jump into this episode. So today we are looking at the Akai Stryker 5-inch model. This is a full-size 2011. I will go ahead and put the specs up there for you. As you can see, this is a sight blocked gun. Think Atlas Gunworks Artemis, if you will, another full sight block gun, competition style pistol. If you're thinking about, you know, competing in limited optics where porting and compensating is not allowed, and you're looking for a sight blocked gun, something that kind of gives you that additional weight on the front end to keep the gun shooting flat, this is probably an option that you should consider. Now, Akai has been on the scene for quite some time. They've been producing 2011s now for years. And so if you're kind of in the competition space or heavily in the 2011 space, you probably have heard of them. If not, you know, if you're kind of newer to the 2011 space, maybe you've only been looking at my content or other people's contents in the last year and a half, maybe Akai's flown under your radar. Historically, I think the feedback that you get is kind of a mixed bag. In some instances, people love their guns. They say they're phenomenal shooters. In some instances, people question maybe some of the fit and finish of the guns, etc. I come in with no preconceived notions to the review, and that's what I try to do in every review, fam. Even when you know, there's a ton of negative things out there about a company or positive things out there about a company. I certainly think the company's reputation is of concern, so I try to address it, but I try to review the gun in front of me, right? So let's dive into the Akai Stryker 5-inch. All right, fam, if you've never seen a 2A NLA review, it kind of works like this. 0 is hot garbage, the worst gun in the history of the world. Never had a gun get a 0. 100 is the best possible gun that money can buy. It is extraordinary. It is amazing, but it's also affordable. I've never had a gun get 100, although we're getting close. If you got something 50 to 60, that's right down the middle gun. Think Glock 17 MOS, gonna go bang every time, just not a lot of real feels or thrills. If you got something kind of 60 to 70, that's like a one deviation from the norm. Maybe that thing has a feature or two, maybe slightly better trigger, slightly better ergonomics that warrant it. If you got something 70 to 80, okay, now you have a gun that has multiple features. That gun is a very quality firearm. If you got something kind of 80 to 89, now we're getting into best in class type guns, especially if it's kind of 85 to 89. And if you got something 90 or above, grill gun status all day. All right, fam, first up, fit and finish. So I gotta say, this is where I feel let me preface this by saying I've never had the perfect gun. I always feel there's something about a gun that could be better. I've come close a few times, but either there's something about every gun where I'm like, oh, it could have a better trigger. It could be a little bit more accurate. It could be aesthetically better, aesthetically more pleasing. Something that's way overpriced. Something about the gun, every gun, gives me a certain amount of pause. I think the pause I had here was kind of on certain elements of the fit and finish. Now look, the things that I'm about to say, I'm going to admit right up front, they're hella nitpicky. They're hella nitpicky, okay? But this is not an inexpensive firearm, and so when you price a gun like this, you're giving me nit to pick. Right? If you pay this much money, and we'll get into affordability in a little bit, but if you're paying this kind of money for a firearm, I'm expecting the gun to be close to perfection. And so I'll start off with the positives. I think the fitment of the gun is very, very well done. There is no wiggle kind of slide to frame, no wiggle whatsoever kind of grip to frame. The barrel fitment is locked up really, really tight. Despite that, the gun racks incredibly smooth, so that part is good, I think. And we'll go over the trigger, but I think the trigger is phenomenal. I think the texturing on the grip is well done. So I think kind of holistically, from a superficial review of the fit and finish, I think the gun is well done. However, there is some little things that I would notice. Relative to the coating, this gun is a DLC gun, but you'll notice like the DLC finish on the slide differs from the DLC on the frame, which differs from the grip, which differs from the mag weld. A little bit more consistency in the coatings goes a long way in my book. Also, you've got these silver points, right? You've got a silver hammer, you've got silver grip screws, you've got silver, and let's see if I can point that out a little bit. You've got 6 silver screws on the rear side. I don't know where those things are coming in at. It seems like if you got an all black DLC gun, it should be an all black DLC gun. I don't think that these were done as accents, because then I would have probably did the trigger in silver or did some other things to highlight that, right? I just think it's the attention to detail on the gun were not where I would want them to be at a gun at this price point. So look, overall, I think the gun is well done. But yeah, I'm nitpicking some of these little small things because I think when you're paying this kind of money for a gun, these are things that I would want to be aware of. I think that it does have a pin grip safety, which is good, but I think it could be a lot smoother in terms of the finish. Same thing for kind of undercut on there. I think there's some sharp edges to the gun that could have been smoothed out, but again, overall I think the fit and finish is solid, but I think there's some attention to detail that a gun at this price point is probably lacking a little bit. So for fit and finish, we're going to give it a 13 out of a possible 15. Next up, reliability. We've got about close to 1,000 rounds through the gun in a couple of range sessions now. I got to be honest, fam, I really didn't have any issues relative to reliability. I ran quite a few different types of ammo through it. I ran some 115, I ran my standard 124, I ran some 147, I ran some hollow, some jacketed hollow points, although this is not a self-defense gun in my opinion, it's a competition pistol. But that said, it handled everything that I sent its way. I'm also always, though, a little bit careful when it's a manufacturer, either A, that's brand new, B, where maybe their reputation is not the best, and C, where I feel like I'm taking into consideration this is a one-of-one sample size, right? So even though it ran perfectly reliable, I'm going to give reliability a 14 out of a possible 15. Next up, durability. Look, fam, you got a DLC gun, steel slide, steel frame, steel grip, aluminum mag weld, again DLC coated. It should be a very durable gun. Obviously, I've got a little bit of concern relative to the coating, the quality of the coating. That's another thing, fam. I would say this. All coatings are not the same. Just because something is PVD, there are different levels to PVD, different levels to DLC, different levels to Cerakote. And so what I would tell you is that it's DLC coated, which generally speaking is a premium coating. It's what you would expect on a gun priced like this. But again, I would say that kind of the inconsistency of the coloring gives me a little pause. It doesn't mean that it's any less durable. Just gives me a little bit of pause. So for durability, we're going to give this a 14 out of a possible 15. All right, fam, next up, trigger look. This is one of the areas where this gun really, really shines. They're using an Atlas trigger. It's got virtually no take up, just a hint. Fam, that trigger's butter. That trigger, you know, guys know I love Atlas triggers. Some people do them to varying levels of effect. And I'll go ahead and I'll put the trigger weight up there, but that trigger is buttery smooth. Excellent job by Akai relative to trigger. For trigger, we're going to give this a 15 out of a possible 15. All right, fam. Next up, ergonomics. Look, this is another area where this gun shines. I'm not sure who makes this grip. I'm not sure if Akai, I doubt they do it internally. I'm sure they source it. Maybe they do it internally, I don't know. But wherever they sourced it from, or if they made it themselves, they did an excellent job. This grip feels amazing in the hands. It is so easy to get a really, really good purchase on the grip. And so, yeah, I like it. I like the aesthetic look of the grip, and I love the way the gun feels in your hand. I do think that added sight block out front gives the gun additional weight and balance. If you are a competition shooter, you're gonna love a gun that feels like this and is weighted like this. For ergonomics, we're gonna give it a 10 out of a possible 10. All right, fam, next up, accuracy. Look, It's a competition pistol. If the gun isn't accurate, there's a problem. There is a problem. I found the gun to be very accurate. I had very tight groupings from 15 yards unassisted, essentially like a 2-inch spread, kind of punching a hole in it. The other thing, though, I will tell you that when I look at accuracy, it's not just kind of barrel accuracy, which is how tight you can get a grouping. It is also how flat the gun is, how does the gun handle itself under recoil. Hopefully you can pick up a lot of that from the shooting footage at the start of the video. I think the shootability of the gun was very, very, very good. For accuracy, we're going to give it a 9 out of a possible 10. All right, these next two categories, we're going to kind of lump them together. Aftermarket support, maintenance, and upkeep. Look, there's a new 2011 coming onto the scene every other day. Every other day there's a new 2011 coming to market, and every time there's a new 2011 coming to market, there's a new third-party vendor that is either making parts for it or is providing services associated with it. I have consistently given 2011 4s out of 5 for aftermarket support. We're going to keep rolling with that. Same thing for maintenance and upkeep. Look, these are Ferraris. They're not pickup trucks. You can't go 100,000 rounds without cleaning them. Every 1,000 rounds or so, break your gun down, clean it out, oil it. It'll run effectively, or do a little light clean after every range session. That's my personal practice. But aftermarket support, maintenance, and upkeep, we're going to give this gun a 4 out of 5 in both categories. All right, fam. Next up, affordability. Look, fam. Things are not cheap out in these 2011 streets. Things are not cheap out in these 2011 streets. I'll go ahead and I'll put the MSRP of the Akai Stryker up there so you can see it. So look, it's an expensive firearm. Now, this always leads me to a question. I did a video. I'm going to start off by saying I think it's a great gun. It's a great gun. For the price point, it should be a great gun, right? And so I've heard criticisms where people say, oh, every gun is the next best thing. No, but when you're paying the kind of dollar amount that a lot of these 2011s are, the guns are going to be great, without a doubt. So then the question then becomes, just as if you were, even if you were buying a $500 Glock, right? If you're going out and you're spending your hard-earned $500, you're going to pair it to other guns that are in that price point, and some other gun has a better reputation, better features, better quality for the same price, you're going to choose that other gun. So it's not just, is this gun great? It's how does this gun stack up against other great guns in the price point? And those are the kind of metrics you're going to use to try to determine whether this is the gun for you. But I would say it is an expensive gun. I've already given you kind of like the pros and the cons of it, but relative to affordability, it is not very affordable at all. Affordability, we're only going to give it a 2 out of a possible 5. Next up is flex. Is Instagram gonna go crazy? Are your boys gonna be like, damn? Look, fam, I think so. I think so. Now, look, if this is not my gun. If it were my gun, there were a few things I would probably do. I would probably recode it, and if I'm going through the hassle of recoding it, I'm probably going to add a little bit different colorway to maybe the barrel and small parts. I would have, or I'm going to make sure certainly that they're all consistent. But I mean, other than that, there's nothing wrong with the gun. I've kind of pointed out the pros and cons of it already. I think it is a flex to have for limited option guns to be fitted this well to have that sight tracker on it. If you're using this gun for competition, which is what it was meant to be used for, this would definitely be something to consider. For flex, we're going to give it a 3 out of a possible 5. Alright fam, look, when you add all of that up, you get an 88 out of a possible 100. Now I told you guys, if you get something kind of between 85 to 89, you're in best in class territory. And I think that's probably like what we're talking about when we look at the Akai Stryker. It's a best in class gun. Now some people may feel that for this price point it should be Grail gun 90 or above. That's fair. That's a fair position to hold. But I think this is a specific gun for a specific buyer. If you're a competition shooter and you want a LO gun, you want something that's sight blocked with a crazy trigger that has great ergonomics, this gun fits the bill. Is it perfection? No, but I told you I haven't found the perfect gun yet. I've never got 100 out of 100. 88 is a pretty damn good score. So that is the Akai Stryker 5-inch. Now look, you know how I am, fam, because you guys always hit me up, well, 2A in LA, how does it compare to other guns, blah, 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 blah. So I sat back and I was thinking to myself, like, what gun in my collection would be a good gun to compare it to? Because I think a lot of times a score is fine, but like when I compare it to a comparable gun head to head, a lot of times that's when you get a little bit better feel for what the gun is, right? So what I decided to do here is I decided to compare the Akai Stryker to my Atlas Gunworks Artemis. Now you guys know that the Artemis is my competition pistol. It's the gun that I use for limited optics, and what I really like about it is that it is also sight blocked the same way as the Akai is. And so I thought by putting up the Atlas Gunworks Artemis, you know, Atlas is very well known, arguably one of the biggest names in the 2011 space. By putting together one of their kind of hallmark or landmark guns with Akai, these two guns, there's a difference in price. The Akai is probably about $1,500 less expensive than the Artemis, so that's something that you should take into consideration. But we're going to get these two out on the range and we're going to put them head to head and we're going to talk about which one is better, and if in fact the Atlas Gunworks is better, is it $1,500 better? Let's talk about that in the next video coming up. Alright, that's it for this episode, fam. Until next time, as always, take care of one another and peace.